opinions, and that is that it's no longer a pandemic; it is now endemic, which means like the flu, you are going to have to get vaccinated on an annual basis to protect yourself uh, against corona and the different variants. Like with flu, every year you have a different variant presenting. That's the one issue. Let's understand what exactly is it that you believe government should be saying to the people. I'm also kind of getting a sense that you feel by now, had the proper communication been communicated, uh, we might have reached the point of herd immunity.
Well, first of all, I've now been advised, and I think it's in the public domain, that there's no such a thing as herd immunity when it comes to these vaccines in any event. And I think we've only reached 30%. In fact, there's an abundance of vaccines that people are not actually taking.
Mm.
That's the other problem. But on the issue of the annual vaccination, yes, we all grew up with taking vaccines, whether it was for the flu or whether it was for polio and whatever it is. The question that arises here is the efficacy and the effectiveness of these vaccines. Do they really work? Is it effective? Is it helping people? Because people are still getting infected with it, people are still getting severe COVID, and people are still dying. Now, I personally have taken the vaccine. I can say I've taken 2 shots of the Pfizer vaccine. Now, the question that arises is, why is the National Department of Health and SEPRA not going on a communication drive, entering into engagement with those that have a different opinion on vaccines, so that the public, we are not health experts, so that we can get a better understanding, is this just conspiracy theories? Is this vaccine effective? Has it been working? Is it working? How effective is it? What percentage, people will still be effective? They're not doing this. In fact, they are shying away from any engagement with anti-vaxxers. And that's the problem we got. And added to that is, there's a lot of conspiracy theories. Some of them might just be true about the effects on the population or depopulation, as some of them are calling it, the pharmaceutical industry. While I see our president the other day is calling on that they should not be looking at high profits. The fact is, if you look at the top 20 people in the country at the moment, you would find in the latest report that you got from Forbes, most of them come from the pharmaceutical companies. So the question is this all about money or not? Now, let me give you a good example right now. You are saying to people, and there's no compliance on the ground at all. No compliance at all. You must go to school, the children must go to school and socially distance themselves. But when they go to school, they sit in the taxis on top of each other. You're sitting in a plane for hours now without even your mask because you're eating and everything else. So, the question is, should you be wearing a mask? Is it effective or is it not effective? Is it helping or not helping? So, I know of many people that have been vaccinated that have also died, that have been affected again. So I'm not sure whether it works. I'm not sure whether it works or not. And you sometimes get the impression that those that are promoting it have a different interest, and those that might not be promoting might have another interest as well. But
Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. There are people again, health care experts, scientists, doctors, epidemiologists, etc., are saying things like, when, just to go back on your previous question, where you're saying you personally know of people who have had the vaccines and have actually died, not necessarily because of the vaccine, but they died through maybe complications, we don't know. But the suggestion there is the people that have died despite having been vaccinated is because they had other comorbidities. For example, maybe they were cancer patients, or they had diabetes, or any other dreaded diseases that they were suffering from, 4 years on end. That is what the response would be. So I'm just wondering, let's not create hysteria by suggesting that people who've taken the vaccines has died. We can't, uh, categorically say they have died because they've taken the vaccine.
No, 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 you're absolutely correct there. In fact, people that, in fact, the question that has also arisen whether people that have died of COVID or did they die of other things, you've got over
Mm,
300,000 excess deaths in this country unaccounted for.
mm,
300,000. Okay? So you are absolutely correct. It does not mean that if a person took a vaccine and they died as a result of the vaccine. However, there are also reports of people who took a vaccine and immediately that they took a vaccine, they had blood clots and they had other complications.
mm, mm.
Report that as well. But then
Right,
there are also those that have taken vaccines that believe that it is helping them and it has worked for them and it's the right thing to do. And
right.
like I said to you, I too took the vaccine. And my pharmacist told me a week or two ago, Sheikh Iman, you never got sick at all. And of course, but together with that, I'm taking my all the vitamins and things regularly.
Right,
So the
right.
question is, what is really helping you? But what I'm saying is that government, the National Department of Health, and the health regulatory authority, SAPRA, should do more in communicating with the masses on the ground to get them to get a better understanding of vaccines and also allay all fears as to what anti-vaxxers are saying. And they're failing to do that. That is what is
Mm,
causing
mm,
confusion
mm.
on the ground, and people are not convinced. That's the problem. So we're not doing enough from that perspective.
Okay. All right. I'm talking to Ahmed Mansoor Sheikh Imam. He's the founding member of National Freedom Party NFP. We're talking about the issue around vaccinations. Has government done enough regarding effective communication, uh, uh, obviously, with the COVID situation? The other issue here, and I think you are very keen on unpacking this, is the pushback, the very strong pushback by university students. Um, what do you believe? And I think they obviously are our future leaders of the country. Uh, Very important that we get them to hear us regarding vaccines are concerned and get them to be vaccinated, thereby, trying to get a large community vaccinated as well. What do you believe government should be saying to them,
Well,
particularly to them, to get a very important message across? You talk about communication. What should we be saying to them?
Well, government even there to have failed in taking the opportunity of going and addressing this at the different tertiary institutions and getting them done. But like the students, like many others in the country, millions of people who do not either believe in these vaccines, not because the vaccines may not be effective, but because we have not done enough to educate them on vaccines, and given everything that you hear in the world that is going on at the moment, anything is expected. Now, let's look at the students that are protesting. First of all, you're saying to them that if you're not vaccinated, then you must follow a different line, a different queue, in a different entrance. Okay? But you're still going to allow them to socialize inside. You're going to allow them to socialize when they get there, you allow them to socialize when they get out during their breaks and everything. So really, I don't seem to understand the logic behind that one. The other thing is this, you are saying to them, if you are not vaccinated, some of them you're saying you won't allow them to come in. There is no government policy at the state saying that it's mandatory. It's only talk and talk. Government has not imposed that on our people at this stage. And in terms of the constitution, they do not have the right to do that. However, that if they believe, and this is what government has been talking about, that if they believe that by you not vaccinating, you might, it might affect those that are vaccinated, and they become at risk, then of course, they might find a way around it. But until they put in a policy on these things, unless the government gives clear direction on these, you're going to have the problem at not only at universities, everywhere else. And what is more important is this. The level of compliance, it's the same thing when people are going to all these supermarket chains and going to work and things. Shouldn't the same principle apply that you want to apply at the universities? Exactly the same thing. Because if you're working in a factory, shouldn't you say then everybody then must be vaccinated? So unless you've got one single policy giving direction as to what must happen, you can't unilaterally go up and have your own, rules and regulations. It's like you have a constitution, but somebody in another province is now going to go and do the opposite of what the constitution says. You have the protection of rights of individuals in the constitution.
Right.
So
Okay.
that is the
I'm
problem.
wondering. I'm just wondering, as we're speaking about this issue, are we not raising it way too late in the day, so to speak? We've been told by the experts that by April, May, we'll see the fifth wave. Here in South Africa, we don't know what that variant's going to look like. So now we're already talking about the fifth wave. As far as the lockdown is concerned, level 1 lockdown, all of those restrictions have been lifted apart from, sanitizing, social distancing, and masking up. And I think we as a country have now become way too complacent. It's almost as if, it's over. It's over. The pandemic is over. COVID is gone. We're rid of it. And we're almost carrying on with life as per usual. And when we talk COVID, I'm just wondering if we're not exhausted. Are we not exhausted by this topic? Or do you believe that we're not out of the woods if we don't take the necessary precautions, very especially since the fifth wave is on the horizon? We are still in a lot of trouble.
Well, let me start off by saying I take the necessary precautions. I just make sure I sanitize. I wear a mask. I insist that people getting into a lift and things do that. But at the same time, I must say that government has not convinced me that it's the right thing to do. I don't know whether a mask will really help me. In fact, I expect the health experts to tell us, is it healthy to wear a mask for 8 hours non-stop? I say it's not. Because I know it affects me if I have a mask for a long period of time. And we don't know whether even the sanitizing is working now. If you remember that at the early days of COVID, there was so much of pressure put on you. You must stand far away from the other. You must sanitize. You're not even allowed to touch a book or a parcel or anything like that. Sanitize the parcel. There was so much. At the moment, and you are absolutely correct in your observation, we are so complacent that the question that arises, what is the purpose of still having the national state of disaster in place? It's because nobody is complying with anything at all. So that's the problem. So that's why we must not be selective. But you are correct. We are anticipating the fifth wave sometimes in May, they're talking about. Okay? And only about 30% of the people in this country are really vaccinated. And if vaccines is the way to go, then it means we are way below the target. That's what it means. But what are we doing in terms of government and law enforcement? What have we done even from day one to ensure there's compliance? Absolutely nothing. So right now I can tell you there's no purpose even having the national state of disaster because nobody is complying. But again, your observation is correct. People are suffering from COVID fatigue. They are tired. They are frustrated. 2 full years. And it's made it very difficult. People stop. It was like trying to live a normal life in an abnormal society. It was almost impossible. And that's where we're coming from. So I think what must happen is this. Government needs to communicate better with the people on the ground and give them a better understanding. And I think the anti-vaxxers seem to have done a better job than pro-vaxxers in the country. That's what I meant.
Okay, I think that's where we're going to leave it. We hope and pray that you, Ahmed Munzoor Emam, as NFP, is going to try and take it to the top where people can listen. Maybe you have the political will to take this up with government and very definitely with the Department of Health. We will watch the space very, very closely. Thank you indeed for your time. and your concerns about this very, very worrying situation. Thank you once again, and Salaam Alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
That was Ahmed Manzoor Sheikh Imam, a founding member of the National Freedom Party, raising some very, very valid concerns around COVID 19, despite the fact that I think a vast majority of the country is suffering from COVID fatigue. 8:28 exactly, news and views right here on Salam Media.